Welcome to Albuquerque Real Estate Talk, episode 493, first week of June 2024. This week, we're going to go through the May home sales data for the Albuquerque market and what happened there. We've got a question about home inspections we'll talk about. Albuquerque is on a list. You know, there's all these lists floating around out there. We're going to talk about the list that Albuquerque is on, go over that, as well as some changes in the ADU financing rules from Freddie Mac.
ADU, accessory dwelling unit.
That's it.
That's it.
That's
okay.
it, which is now allowed in the Albuquerque market. It's Tigo and Tracy Venturi with the Venturi Group of Real Broker, and people want to call us.
Hey, give us a ring, 448-8888. You know we're in the 505, and it's 448-8888. Looking forward to talking to you.
And our website is welcomehomeabq.com. And I have to put that out there because we're going to talk about market data.
Tigo's favorite thing.
My favorite thing. No, but while I have so much market data on our website, so if you ever want to dig into the Albuquerque housing market, I've got it sliced and diced a lot of different ways depending on what you're looking for. I have a lot of real estate investors that come to me and say, thank you for putting it out there so that we can see what's going on in the market.
Or Tigo, they could hit you up on YouTube and ask a question so you could dive into a specific topic if they have a specific area of town they want to know about, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Love to do it. So, Tracy, first thing I want to hit on is there was supposed to be on last Monday at the Albuquerque City Council talking about rezoning some certain parts, certain areas to allow duplexes on single-family home properties.
Right.
Well, it didn't happen.
Because?
They postponed it. Kicked the can down the road.
Okay,
So,
I know you were listening on.
I was.
You were listening to the city council meeting when I walked out of the room.
Yeah, I was on till pretty late for the city council meeting, and they had a huge agenda. Unfortunately, that particular item did not get addressed. There were a couple of pretty controversial issues that they were dealing with. So,
well, thank you for the update on that, because I know everybody was wondering.
Yeah. So, Tracy, home sales in May, we've got the data. Like I said, let's just run through some of the numbers here so people get a feel for what's going on. There's a lot of talk and I think kind of casual talking about real estate. It's slow, there's not a lot of home sales. And yet at the same time, home prices keep going up. And that's really the takeaway when we start looking at the data that came in for May. So there were 935 homes that sold in May. That is a little bit more than last year. There were just under 900 last year. If we go back to 2022, it was closer to 1,200 homes. So we definitely have seen a slowdown in the pace of sales, but yet at the same time, the pricing continues to tick up when we look at it from a year-over-year standpoint. The number of homes that went under contract, meaning pending sale, it was up 12% from last year. So there's definitely more activity out there. Something that I picked up on, Tracy, and I want to ask you about this was, so pendings for May were up 12%. So about 1,100, about 1,050 homes that went under contract in May.
Pending means houses that accepted a contract.
Correct. Haven't closed yet. They're in the period where they're doing their due diligence and all that stuff. But the other data point that I track is something I call it foot traffic, but it's number of shows per listing, number of times the home is shown. And it's actually down from last year, down 20%, meaning the foot traffic, the number of people going out and looking at homes was down 20%, but yet at the same time, pendings are up 12%. So how do we reconcile that?
Do you have an answer? Do you want me to guess?
I've got a guess. I want to hear your guess.
Well, my guess would be that things are going pending quickly, so it's not allowing for more showings to happen. Maybe? What's your guess?
My guess was that there's not as much traffic, and we see that.
Not as many home buyers out there.
Yeah, when I say traffic, yes, that's what I mean. I mean, people, going out looking at home, foot traffic. I think that the people that are out there are more serious. That's why pendings were up, but yet foot traffic was down. I think there's just not as many people maybe casually looking. I don't know if casually is the right word.
Not as many people motivated to move today and ready to go. or people who've decided that they're just not able to make a move in this market?
They're just not even looking. And so the people that are looking are a little more serious than, let's say, a year ago. That's the way I look at it. So
I think all of that could be a combination.
yeah, we know interest rates have not been favorable.
Not favorable compared to 2 years ago or 3 years ago.
Exactly.
True. Favorable compared to 40 years worth of interest rates. They're very normal and actually better than many of those years.
Yeah.
But yes, I know there's that perception because we all got used to 3 and 4%.
Yeah, we did for a long time.
For a long time.
For a very long time. And so, yeah, mortgage rates are in that 7.5 range right now. And news this week did not show any sign of that changing anytime soon. Now people don't think the Fed's going to cut rates anytime soon. So we'll see.
Yeah, sounds good.
Well, I just wanted to talk about home prices
Okay.
because this is the headline. The headline is all-time new high.
Yeah.
All-time new high in both median price. So median price for all the homes that sold in the Albuquerque area in May was $360,000. So that's the middle, of all the homes that sold. That's an all-time high. Average is now $403,000. Over $400,000 is the average price for a home in Albuquerque. And then the other thing we look at is the price per square foot. Oh, let me give you the percentages on that. So the median price up 4.5%.
Year over year?
Year over year, yep. Average price up 2%, so not quite as much. But then the price per square foot, which is a better measurement of all of this, is up 4.5%. So price per square foot 4.5% higher this May than May of 2023. So that's a quick rundown. I do a deep dive on our YouTube channel. You can check that out and see my look at the May market.
And I know, Tigo, from our talks over morning coffee, because we talk real estate all the time, that even just in the last month or two, things are still going up.
It does. However, price reductions, I've talked about this now the last 3 weeks on the show, I think, is the number of homes having a price reduction is unusually high for this time of year.
Right.
It's common to have price reductions all the time, meaning these are homes that were on the market, listed for sale, hadn't sold, and the seller has decided to lower the price. So
was that a lead-in for
that was a lead-in because
were
I know you wanted to talk about that.
handing that to me on the platter there? 7701 Hermanson. And actually, it hasn't had a price reduction. Hermanson is having an open house. So I've got to talk open houses, price reductions, and newly listed properties.
Okay.
So Hermanson, 7701 Hermanson. It's an amazing Mossman home. It's open from 11 to 1, and that's today the 8th. You'll want to get your little boots on and get over there right away. Hermanson is a really nicely done, almost 2,700 square foot home with 4 bedrooms, Mossman, beautiful property. So don't miss out on that. And then another one is 1433 Camino Cerrito Southeast, also having an open house on Saturday, 1 to 3. So you can go right from Hermanson over to Four Hills to Camino Cerrito. Of course, these are all on our website. We also have an open house today in Mariposa, a really lovely 1-story house that's open from 1 to 3. And that house was built in 2017, also a 4-bedroom, a very open floor plan, very nice. And I know, Tigo, you probably didn't tour it when I did. I don't recall.
No, I did not see that home.
No, it backs to like an area where there's a nice long view. So that one's in Mariposa, and that one's $530,000. And lots of open houses. But we also have a newly listed house I want to talk about. Okay, one of them had a price reduction. I forgot to mention that. That's where we started this whole thing, right? The price reduction is on I'm not sure. Let's go to the newly listed property. Okay, this one's exciting. It's 847 Longhorn Road, Southeast in Rio Rancho, 87124. So that's southern part of Rio Rancho near Unser and Southern, sort of. $359,000. This house just hit the market. 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage. It's really updated, really nicely, beautiful home. The thing that's kind of unique about it, it has a new, updated everything, but it also has a Cummings generator included, a very, very high-end one. So if you ever lose power, you're covered there. But very beautiful home. So if you want to see that one, give us a call, 448-8888. That one's 359 in Southern Rio Rancho.
Sounds good.
Lots of open houses, lots of houses coming on the market.
Yeah, what I looked at this week, there's about 300 homes that came on the market in the entire metro Albuquerque area. And at the same time, there are about 300 homes that came off the market in the entire metro Albuquerque area. So we're seeing that turnover and homes. Obviously, they're not all the same homes, but it is kind of equal. Homes coming on and homes coming off.
I actually have a stat for that.
Okay.
So houses came on the market in the last year. And
wait, you said year. No, you meant
last month, the week, last week.
Week.
274 in the last year. That's why I don't do stats, I guess. And this is the first time that I've looked at this stat. We actually had 282 go pending sales, so more than came on the market. Not that, they're not the same houses necessarily. The other thing that's interesting about the last week is 69 houses are back on the market. They went under contract, and for some reason that contract fell through, and they are now back on the market. The other thing that's interesting, in the last week, 227 houses have had price reductions. It's a big number.
Yeah, like I said, so 229 out of, let's say, 1,200 homes. Oh, no, I take that back. It's more like 1,800 homes on the market. So that's not unusual to have, price reductions, but it's unusual for this time of the year.
Right, exactly.
Which I keep saying.
Right.
So
moving on.
Wait, I want to talk about one other thing since you brought it up, was the number of homes on the market.
Okay.
Because we have seen an increase in the number of homes coming on the market in the Albuquerque area here over the last 3 weeks, let's say, in the last month or so. Very common this time of year that we get a build in the total number of homes on the market. And it's up quite a bit from last year. If we look at the number of homes that came on the market, or actually are for sale, it's up from last year almost 30%. However, that's still half of what we had at the same time in 2019. So you just have to put it in perspective. Yes, we're definitely up from last year, up from the year before that, which was the all-time low in the number of homes on the market. However, we're still not back to, let's say, something that we would consider balanced, and especially in that lower price points, definitely still way out of balance, in that there's a lot more demand in the lower price point than there is supply. I think, you get up over 600,000 in our market. It's getting a little bit closer to balance. But again, we've had homes that went under contract in 2 days that were over $1 million. So it just really depends on the property too.
Sure does. Okay. Tigo, we know that Zillow has a huge amount of brain power on crunching the data and looking at the home data out there across the whole country, right? They're huge, and they do a lot of analysis. And they came out with something this week that I thought was really interesting. I don't know if you've seen the story.
I did see this story, and I got to tell you, so this is one of those...
Let me tell the story first.
This is a list, right? Okay, so anyway, go ahead. I'll tell you my thoughts in a sec.
Our listeners need to know what you're talking about before you start giving an impression. So Zillow came out with a story that says, coming in hot, Phoenix is named the best market for new college graduates. So Phoenix is number one with typical rent at $1,887, it says. Recent college graduate income, approximately $65,000. Share of rental listings, blah, blah, blah. So Albuquerque came in number 2 on this list of best market for new college graduates. And so it says the typical rent here is $1,583, and average recent college graduate income is $65,727. And it talks about how I don't know why it wouldn't be number 1, since the typical rents costs are lower by almost $300. And the actual estimated average wage is the same. I don't know why we wouldn't be number 1, but I guess they like something better about Phoenix. But what's interesting, Tigo...
Well, I think it has to do with the wages, because what they're looking at is, okay, what does it cost to rent? What kind kind of wages can you expect as a recent college graduate?
But Tigo, it says average for Phoenix is 65,608. Average for Albuquerque is 65,727. So they're saying that Albuquerque is actually $100 more than Phoenix. So something about Phoenix made it rank higher.
I know exactly what it is. It is a stronger job market. I've got their expanded data here. It's a stronger job market than Albuquerque.
As in more jobs.
Just more jobs.
Of course there are.
And
Bigger variety, I'm sure.
The rental properties, although it's more expensive, it's more competitive, meaning you might get some concessions on your rent in the Phoenix market versus the Albuquerque market. So
interesting, because when our son was in college here and he was shopping for an apartment, they
in
were
Phoenix.
all in Phoenix.
Yeah.
In Phoenix. They were throwing in different things.
Yeah.
It's been a few years now, but each apartment complex had different, we'll give you this or that or free month or whatever.
So let me go through the list here. So this was Zillow's ranking of the top 10 markets for new college graduates. Phoenix was number 1. Albuquerque was number 2. Colorado Springs, number 3. San Antonio, number 4. When you think about all those markets, they all get compared to each other a lot. Tucson is
we
usually,
look at them a lot, comparing them to the Albuquerque market.
Right. Tucson
number
isn't
5,
on the list.
Portland, Oregon.
Yeah, interesting.
Portland, interesting.
And then you have Dallas, Raleigh, Denver, Spokane, Austin. So the only northern city on that list is Spokane, which is kind of interesting, but it's a northwest city. So yeah, it's an interesting list. What I was going to say about these lists is we see so many lists for top 10 cities for this and top 5 places for that. And a lot of them, let's be honest, are little clickbaity kind of stories, but they are interesting. And it is interesting to see how different markets compare, at least in this context.
So Tigo, when I saw this list and I saw Albuquerque on it, my first thought, and I said to you, okay, let's talk about what are those jobs that are paying $65,727 on average. And we know that the base is hiring, right? We know Sandia Labs is working hard to hire engineers. We know we have government jobs. We know we have a lot of,
Don't look
hospital
at me.
type
This
jobs.
is out of my department. I don't know.
Well, I was in human resources for 15 years, but I'm not sure either. I'm not sure how many of those high paying jobs, so to speak, we have. But it's nice to be on the list, and maybe it will attract more recent college graduates, and maybe we will have that. I don't know. Anyway, Interesting story.
Yeah. Tracy, there was a woman here in Albuquerque last week from Freddie Mac. So Freddie Mac is one of the entities that purchases mortgages. So there's Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and they purchase mortgages from the banks and then resell them on the secondary market. I don't want to go into that, but basically Freddie Mac is one of the big mortgage entities in the country, and they've got a lot of different programs and stuff. But one of the things they do is they do a lot of research on the market, on data, and what's going on. And one of the things that really jumped out at me was Americans' amount of equity they have in their homes. So as of 2023, there was $41.2 trillion in residential real estate in the country. 41 trillion.
That's a pretty big number.
That's a big number.
Yeah.
And 28.7 of that is equity, meaning there's no loan. About 12.5 trillion is loans outstanding. And this is one of those charts I see thrown around a lot where somebody will say, there's more people that have mortgages on their home. There's more, loans outstanding on homes than any time in history. Well, yeah, that's true. It is. It's 12.5 trillion, which is an all-time high. However, you have to also talk about how many homes are free and clear and what are actually how much equity they have. It actually peaked in the middle of 2022. It's come back a little bit, but we still have almost 30 trillion in equity in homes in the United States. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And that's a lot of buying power. Actually, let me segue to another story on that, because there's been a lot of discussion about, okay, we've got almost 30 trillion. Think about that, 30 trillion. Okay, it's not as much as the U.S. debt, but we've got
Couldn't help but think that in
Oh,
my
I know.
head.
It's
You said
34
it.
trillion. I know.
Yeah.
But you got 30 trillion of money basically sitting on the sidelines. You think about it in that sense that people could be spending. And Freddie Mac is one of the entities that's looking at some different second mortgage products that allow people to unlock their equity. Of course, there's HELOCs, home equity lines of credit, which is always available and been available. And it's just people aren't using them as much as they used to back in, the day, if you will.
Well, you think about if a home equity line of credit was 4 or 5% versus today, a home equity line is more in the 7 to 9%, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So it's not like free money or anything.
No.
If you want to take out a home equity line of credit to build a swimming pool or build a portal on your house or do something with that money that's going to improve your property value, I think people aren't in the habit right now of using it so much, but that's what we were seeing at one point. Or people taking out a home equity line of credit to pay off high interest credit cards.
Yeah.
Because 7% or 9% is a lot less than a credit card interest
for sure.
rate.
Yeah, no, for sure. If they can qualify, it definitely makes financial sense. And speaking of financial sense, another thing from the Freddie Mac presentation, again, it was great that she came to Albuquerque and presented. Freddie Mac has a program called the Credit Smart program. And what it is actually an education series to teach people about money and finances.
Oh, great.
And what is a credit score and what is interest rate and what is debt. Sometimes, I know people of our generation, we joke and we say things like, oh, the younger generation, they have no, financial training whatsoever. And I think it's true in every generation. I don't think it's just, a certain generation. I think, when I was in my, teens, I was a knucklehead. I didn't quite understand all that stuff. But it's great because credit and having good credit today is the reality of it. I know some people don't think it's good and we shouldn't have credit and all this. We need credit. You have to have credit to just function in the way our world is right now. And understanding how that works is critical.
So you're talking your credit, not your credit score.
I'm talking both. I'm talking having a good credit score, but then understanding how money works and how interest rate works.
And a lot of that is having credit available that you're not using, or understanding how much credit and how to keep your credit score high by using your credit properly.
Right.
So,
right.
Tigo, there's a website on that. And I think if people just Google Credit Smart Freddie Mac, they can find that.
Absolutely.
Credit Smart.
Yeah. So it's a whole curriculum that somebody can just, self-paced. They can get on there and learn about money, how money works, and interest rate and credit scores and all that good stuff. So highly recommended for people that don't understand that stuff.
So perfect, Tigo. And is there some way, if you can't find it online, just call and we'd be happy to get you the website for that.
Of course. Tracy, home inspections. We, on our team here in Albuquerque, by the way, we're the Venturi group with Real Broker in Albuquerque, New Mexico at 505-448-8888. How'd that sound? That kind of sounded really Ches, huh?
Yeah,
It did. So we've been working on helping our buyers understand the home inspection process better and detailing the process. And what we put together is we found that it's basically just home inspections and going through the home inspection process and purchasing a home. There's about 10 different steps involved, that's just one piece of the home buying process. That's just one small part of it. But part of it is selecting the type of inspections you want to have. So we put together a cheat sheet for home buyers so that they can understand the different options that they have. So what I wanted to talk about, Tracy, is first and foremost, there's this thing that we in our business take for granted called the full home inspection. And most buyers, I can't imagine why you wouldn't do it, will get a full home inspection on a property. And a full home inspection, to actually be an inspector to do that in New Mexico, you do have to be licensed by the regulation and licensing department of the state. And they have very specific guidelines on what things are inspected And almost more importantly, it lists out the things that are not required.
Or
So-
not usually covered.
Or not usually
Yeah.
inspected. So if you're purchasing a property, you want to find that list, and we can always obviously get it to you. You can search it. And so you know what is going to get inspected and what's not going to get inspected. And then there's also, this laundry list of all these other type of inspections that could possibly be done on a home when you're purchasing it. But my
Pico.
question to you, Tracy,
Go ahead.
Now, my question to you is, when we get those home inspections, again, the full home, what are the common things that we see in New Mexico, things that are constantly an issue when a home inspection comes in?
Okay. So most common things that are called out in a home inspection, I'm just going from experience and what we see in all of our transactions. So not in any particular order, Tico, not the most, but roof, a lot of roof issues where they just need resealing, parapet work. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, we forget about our roofs because usually we don't look at our roof until it rains. But people should be having maintenance done at least on an annual basis.
Right. Especially for a flat or positive pitched roof with parapets.
Yeah.
Those parapets start cracking, or where the roof comes together with the parapets, need resealing. We need resealing around all the roof penetrations. So that one's very common. Other things, hot water heaters, end of useful life, or not able to get them to the right temperature, where a home inspector will go and they'll see it's turned up to the max heat because it doesn't work at a normal temperature, or it doesn't have the right straps or the right green tag from the city or whatever. Some other things, what comes to mind for you?
For me, it's the drippy faucets, things like just minor things like that. A lot of time GFCI outlets, so those are the ones that you have on counters that are near sinks. They just wear out over time, and those have to be replaced.
The older homes, 50, 60-year-old homes, we see aluminum wiring. We see outdated electric service. It's not going to handle a bunch of gaming computers type service.
Yeah, well, and so that's another thing. The older homes, there's a lot of things that'll come up because the codes have changed. However, when you get a full home inspection, it's not a code inspection.
Right.
They may mention things that it's not to the current code, but so many times it's that whole story about a home that's wired with a two-wire electric. Well, it's been that way for 50 years. But it's not to code. Doesn't mean it has to be changed. It's, that's just buyer needs to be aware of it and make a decision based on that.
Yeah. And you said it, Tigo. It's not a code inspection, but sometimes if it's really hazardous or it's known to cause fires, they'll probably mention it.
Yeah.
But it's more of a quick, on this moment in time, this is what they saw. And home inspectors aren't going to find everything. There's furniture in houses. They don't move furniture out of the way. They don't dig into walls. So it's a good overall look. And if they see something that they think should need further inspection, they suggest like you get a licensed roofer or you get a licensed electrician's opinion. So it's a good once over.
Yeah, and I think people just I think the takeaway from this, if you are purchasing a home, consult with us on all the different options for inspections. And just remember, you have the option to do any and all inspections that you want on the property with two caveats. One, who pays for it? And two, it doesn't damage the property. Part of our contract is the buyer can do all the inspections they want. So just keep that in mind when you are out there buying a home. And just like that, Tracy, we are wrapped up again, half hour gone. It's Tigo and Tracy Venturi with the Venturi Group of Real Broker here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And you can call us at 505-448-8888 or visit our website. I almost duplicated, put those words together. Visit our website at welcomehomeabq.com. Have a great weekend.